My girlfriend declared, "If you don't buy me the Chanel 2025 limited bag, we're done." I looked around the table at our shocked friends and family, then calmly replied, "Then we're done." What happened next taught me that sometimes the most expensive lessons come in the cheapest packages. I'm Ethan Crawford, 29, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had my life figured out. Senior marketing director at a tech startup in LA, decent apartment in West Hollywood, and what I believed was a solid 2-year relationship with Vanessa Sterling, a 26-year-old aspiring influencer who'd somehow made lifestyle content creation sound like a legitimate career. Looking back now, I can see the red flags I chose to ignore. The way she'd pout when I couldn't afford the newest restaurant she'd seen on Instagram. How she'd compare me to other guys in her comments section who seemed more generous. The subtle guilt trips when I'd suggest staying in for a quiet night instead of going out somewhere expensive. But I rationalized it all. She was building her brand, I told myself. She needed to maintain a certain image for her followers. Vanessa had moved into my place about 8 months ago, ostensibly to save money while building her brand. She contributed sporadically to household expenses, usually when her OnlyFans subscribers had a particularly good month, but I'd convinced myself this was temporary. The arrangement seemed fair. She handled the domestic stuff I was too busy to manage, and I covered most of our expenses. What I didn't realize was how systematically she'd been studying my finances, my habits, my vulnerabilities. She knew exactly when I got paid, how much I made, what I spent money on. She'd positioned herself as the perfect girlfriend, supportive, understanding, ambitious, while secretly calculating how much she could extract from the relationship. October 15th marked 2 years since our first date, and I'd planned what I thought would be a perfect celebration. Dinner at Republique, one of LA's hottest restaurants, with a table for 8 that included my parents visiting from Phoenix, her sister Madison, my cousin Jake with his wife Emma, and Jake's 14-year-old son Tyler, who was staying with them for the weekend. I'd spent weeks coordinating everyone's schedules and had splurged on the premium wine pairing. This was supposed to be a milestone, a celebration of what we'd built, and a preview of bigger milestones ahead. Vanessa looked stunning that night in a black dress I'd bought her for her birthday, paired with the Tiffany bracelet that had set me back 2 months of car payments. She'd been unusually quiet during the first course, but I attributed it to nerves about having both families together. The conversation flowed easily. My dad was telling embarrassing stories about my college years, Madison was updating everyone on her nursing program, and even Tyler had put down his phone to engage with the adults. Everything felt perfect. Then, between the main course and dessert, Vanessa stood up. "I have something to say," she announced, her voice carrying that particular performative tone she used when recording her videos. The table went quiet, probably expecting an anniversary toast or maybe even an engagement announcement. My mother actually reached for her phone, anticipating a moment worth capturing. "Ethan," she said, looking directly at me with an expression I'd never seen before, cold, calculated, almost predatory. "We've been together for 2 years now, and I think it's time you showed me how serious you are about this relationship. If you don't buy me the Chanel 2025 limited edition bag, the one I showed you last month, then we're done. Tonight, I'm not kidding." The silence that followed was deafening. My father's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Emma's wine glass froze in mid-sip. Madison's eyes went wide with what I can only describe as second-hand embarrassment. Even Tyler looked up from his phone, sensing the tension. "Vanessa," I said carefully, "this isn't really the time or place for—" "No," she cut me off, her voice rising. "This is exactly the time and place. 2 years, Ethan. 2 years of my life, and what do I have to show for it? A shared Netflix account and a drawer in your bedroom." The neighboring tables were starting to stare. The waiter approaching with dessert menus made an abrupt U-turn. "That bag costs $8,000, she continued, her voice gaining momentum like a freight train heading downhill. "If you can't invest $8,000 in proving you love me, then maybe you don't actually love me enough." My mother's face had gone pale. My father looked like he was trying to solve a complex math problem. Emma was texting furiously under the table, but it was Tyler who broke the spell. "Oh my God," he whispered, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Is this actually happening right now?" And that's when I realized, yes, this was actually happening. The woman I'd been supporting, housing, and planning a future with had just issued an ultimatum. in front of both our families, at our anniversary dinner. The clarity that hit me in that moment was almost physical. This wasn't a request or even a demand, it was a transaction. She was putting our relationship up for auction and the opening bid was $8,000. I looked around the table at the shocked faces of people I loved and respected, then back at Vanessa, who was standing there with her arms crossed, waiting for my response like a child who'd just thrown a tantrum in a toy store. "Then we're done," I said quietly. Her confident expression flickered. "What? We're done," I repeated, louder this time. "Right here, right now, we're done." The look on her face was priceless, a combination of shock, disbelief, and dawning panic, as if she'd just realized she'd miscalculated badly. "Ethan, you can't be serious. I didn't mean you were perfectly clear," I said, standing up. "Our relationship is worth exactly $8,000 to you. To me, it's worth more than being extorted in front of my family." I pulled out my wallet, left enough cash to cover the entire bill plus tip, and looked around the table. "I'm sorry everyone had to witness this. Please stay and enjoy dessert. I'll call you all tomorrow." As I walked toward the exit, I could hear Vanessa calling after me, her voice shifting from commanding to pleading. But I didn't turn around. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already buzzing with notifications. What I didn't know until the next morning was that Tyler had recorded the entire exchange. Not maliciously, the kid was 14 and had grown up in the TikTok generation where everything was content. He'd been casually filming the dinner for his private story when Vanessa's ultimatum began. The video he posted that night was captioned simply, "When your cousin's GF tries to extort him at dinner, toxic gold digger anniversary drama." By the time I woke up, it had 2.3 million views. My phone was in complete meltdown mode. Missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize, text messages from college friends I hadn't spoken to in years, and approximately 47 Instagram DMs from various news outlets asking for exclusive interviews. The video had been shared across every major social platform. Twitter users were creating memes. Reddit had dedicated an entire thread to analyzing Vanessa's audacity levels. But the messages that really got my attention were from Vanessa herself. "ETHAN, call me right now. That video needs to come down immediately. I'm getting death threats because of your family. If you loved me, you would protect me from this. And finally, buy me the bag and I'll forgive you for embarrassing me." That last message was what finally made me laugh out loud. Even in crisis, even facing viral humiliation, she was still trying to leverage the situation into getting what she wanted. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called Tyler. "Dude, I'm so sorry," he said before I could even speak. "I didn't think it would blow up like this." "Absolutely not," I told him when he offered to delete it. "Tyler, you just gave me the best anniversary gift I've ever received. That video is going to save me from making a terrible mistake." Over the next 3 days, while Vanessa alternated between demanding I make the video disappear and insisting I still owed her the bag, I found myself reflecting on our entire relationship with new clarity. The more I thought about it, the more patterns emerged. The expensive dinners that were always special occasions. The designer items she needed for content creation. The way conversations about our future always seemed to center around what I could provide rather than what we could build together. She trained me to see her demands as investments in our relationship, when really they were just demands. But it was her persistence about the bag that really crystallized my response. Even after being humiliated on a global scale, even after I'd clearly ended our relationship, she was still texting me daily about that fucking Chanel bag. "If you really loved me, you'd buy it anyway to prove you're sorry. It's the only way I'll know you're serious about fixing this. Everyone thinks you're cheap now. This is your chance to change the narrative." That's when I decided to give her exactly what she wanted. I drove to the Chanel boutique in Beverly Hills that Thursday morning. The sales associate, a perfectly polished woman named Patricia who clearly recognized me from the viral video, was professionally discreet as I explained what I needed. "I'd like to purchase one of your empty gift boxes," I said. "The kind you use for the 2025 limited edition bags." She looked confused. "Sir, we typically don't sell empty boxes separately." "I'm not looking for typical," I explained. "I'm looking for educational." After some discussion with her manager and a $15 administrative fee, I walked out with a pristine Chanel box, complete with ribbon and gift bag. That evening I sat down and wrote the most honest letter I'd ever composed. "Vanessa, You asked for the Chanel 2025 limited edition bag as proof of my love. After careful consideration, I've decided to give you something even more valuable, the truth. This box represents our relationship perfectly. Beautiful packaging, impressive presentation, but ultimately empty of anything real or lasting. You wanted $8,000 worth of leather and metal to validate 2 years of shared experiences. I wanted a partner who valued those experiences for what they were, not what they could be converted into. You've taught me that some people see relationships as transactions and love as currency. Thank you for the lesson. Consider this your receipt. The box is yours to keep. Unlike our relationship, it's actually worth something. I placed the letter inside the empty box, wrapped it beautifully, and drove to her sister's apartment where she'd been staying since our breakup. Madison answered the door, looking embarrassed and apologetic. Ethan, she's not here right now, but I can. Actually, this is perfect, I said, handing her the elegantly wrapped package. Could you make sure she gets this? It's something she's been asking for. What happened next exceeded even my wildest expectations. Vanessa posted the unboxing on her Instagram live stream, clearly expecting to find the actual bag inside. The moment of realization when she opened the beautiful box to find nothing but my letter was captured in real time for her 12,000 followers. Her reaction was immediate and volcanic. "Are you fucking kidding me?" she screamed, holding up the empty box. "He gave me an empty box, an empty box." She read portions of my letter out loud, her voice getting higher and more hysterical with each sentence, apparently not realizing that she was only making herself look worse. "This is abuse," she declared to her live audience. "This is emotional manipulation and psychological warfare." The comments section exploded with laughing emojis and crying laughing faces. Someone screen recorded the entire meltdown and posted it to TikTok, where it immediately went viral again. But the real avalanche started the next day, when people began reaching out to me with information I wished I'd had 2 years earlier. The first call came from Qley, who I'd met several times but never really connected with. She was Vanessa's closest friend from college, and her voice was shaking when she called me. "Ethan, I need to tell you something about Vanessa," she said. "I should have said something sooner, but I didn't want to get involved in your relationship." What Qley told me made my stomach drop. Vanessa was drowning in credit card debt over $20,000 across multiple cards. She'd been using a rotation of dating apps to find guys who would take her to expensive dinners and buy her gifts. "She has a whole system," Qley explained. "She researches guys before first dates, looks up their jobs, their social media, figures out how much they probably make. Then she tailors her personality to what she thinks they want. She told me you were her retirement plan," Qley continued. "She said once you guys got married, she'd never have to worry about money again." But Qley wasn't done. "There's something else. She's been taking money from your account without permission. Small amounts, hoping you wouldn't notice. She told me it was like borrowing from the joint household fund. But Ethan, you guys don't have a joint account." My blood went cold. I'd noticed small discrepancies in my checking account over the past few months: $47 here, $83 there, always small enough to be explained by forgotten purchases or restaurant tips I'd miscalculated. I immediately logged into my banking app. What I found was systematic theft going back 8 months, right around the time Vanessa had moved in and gained access to my wallet, my mail, and my personal information. The total was just over $900, but that wasn't even the worst revelation. The call that really shattered my remaining illusions came from Andrew Chen, a software engineer who introduced himself as Vanessa's ex-boyfriend from 2 years ago. "Man, I saw that video and I had to reach out," Andrew said. "That girl put me through hell, and I don't want to see her do it to anyone else." Andrew's story made my situation look mild by comparison. Vanessa had convinced him she was pregnant, extracted $3,000 for medical expenses, then disappeared for 2 weeks before returning with a story about a tragic miscarriage. She'd also stolen his credit card information and used it for about 6 months before he figured out why his bills were so high. "The bag thing doesn't surprise me at all," Andrew said. "She always escalated when she sensed guys were getting ready to leave. It was like she was trying to extract as much value as possible before the relationship imploded." The Chanel bag ultimatum wasn't a relationship test, it was a final heist attempt. Armed with this new information, I made a decision that went against every conflict avoidance instinct in my body. I was going to hold her accountable for everything. I called my bank and reported the unauthorized transactions. I compiled every piece of evidence and presented it to a lawyer who specialized in financial fraud cases. But before we could file anything, Vanessa showed up at my apartment on a Tuesday evening looking more disheveled than I'd ever seen her. "Ethan, please," she said when I answered the door. "We need to talk. I'm getting death threats. I can't get work. That video has ruined my life." "You ruined your own life," I said calmly. "I'm just choosing not to subsidize the damage anymore." She tried negotiating. "I can pay you back. I got a real job, and I can send you $50 a month until we're even." $50 a month? I couldn't help but laugh. "Vanessa, you stole nearly $1,000 from me, demanded an $8,000 bag, and your restitution plan is $50 a month. That's a 3-year payment plan for less than 2 weeks of your rent." When I wouldn't back down, she made one final desperate play. "I have screenshots of some very private conversations we had. And photos. Intimate photos. If you don't drop this legal bullshit, I'll make sure everyone sees them." "Vanessa," I said quietly, "I'm recording this conversation on my phone. You just threatened to distribute intimate images without consent, which is a felony in California. You also just attempted to blackmail me, which is another felony." Her face went white as she realized what she'd just done. She agreed to the $50 monthly payments with legal documentation. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my apartment, the same apartment, but somehow it feels completely different now. Lighter. Like someone had been slowly adding weights to my shoulders for 2 years, and I hadn't realized how heavy they'd gotten until they were suddenly gone. Vanessa has kept up with the $50 monthly payments, sent through a legal payment service that requires no personal contact between us. The viral video has died down, though it still gets resurfaced occasionally. Tyler, now 15, has become something of a social media celebrity at his high school for breaking the internet with family drama. My dating life has improved dramatically, though not in the way I expected. The experience with Vanessa taught me to recognize red flags I'd been ignoring: love bombing, financial manipulation, emotional blackmail, and the way certain people treat relationships like business transactions. The woman I'm seeing now, Jessica, is a pediatric nurse who pays her own bills, drives her own car, and has never once asked me to prove my love through expensive purchases. When I told her the whole story, including the empty Chanel box, she laughed so hard she cried. "That's actually brilliant," she said. "You gave her exactly what she asked for, a Chanel box. It's not your fault she didn't specify that she wanted something inside it." I still have that empty box, by the way. It sits on my bookshelf next to my business school textbooks and my collection of marketing industry awards. Friends who visit always ask about it, and I'm happy to tell them the story. It reminds me of something valuable I learned. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, believe them immediately. When someone tells you what they value through their demands, listen carefully. And when someone tries to put a price tag on your love, hand them an empty box and walk away. The most expensive lessons often come in the cheapest packages. But the wisdom they contain, that's priceless. Some people will always see relationships as transactions, love as currency, and partners as investments that should provide guaranteed returns. Learning to identify those people early and having the self-respect to walk away when they reveal themselves might be the most valuable skill anyone can develop in modern dating. The empty gift turned out to be the most honest thing I ever gave her, a perfect representation of what our relationship had become. Beautiful on the outside, impressive to show off, but ultimately hollow at its core. Sometimes the truth really is the best present you can give someone, even when they didn't ask for it, and especially when they don't want it.